Hello and thank you so much for joining me for Saturday Night Crafting. I've got such an awesome tutorial for you tonight. It is going to save you heaps of money. It's going to show you a really quick and easy tip and trick on making your own pearlescent looking cardstock. And all you need is some craft glue. It needs to be craft glue because you want to have minimal water in there. And you need some food coloring. Any old food coloring will do. A sponge, you can use a kitchen sponge like I've got here. And I've got mica powder. Now mica powder is what they put in makeup. So if you've got old makeup, that is what you can also use. You can take your old eyeshadows and crush them up into fine powder. You could take blush or bronzer, whatever you've got. If it's shimmery, it will work. Now, don't worry if you've already got some paste, like this flash paste I've got from Lisa Horton, where it's already got that kind of mica shimmery to it. You can use that as well. And it's the exact same steps as what I do here, just you don't have to mix in the glue or the mica because that's already in there. So I'm going to take a kitchen sponge because that's what I had to hand, forgetting that I also have some craft sponges, which I do switch to later on. And all you need to do is take some of your craft glue. And the reason I'm using craft glue is because it's generally thicker. It's more of a tacky glue. It's not so watery. This stuff is really nice and cheap and cheerful from Craftelier. You can buy loads of different kinds of craft glues, as I shared at the beginning. It's just a slightly thicker glue, less watery. If you use something like Elmer's glue, that's going to be really watery. It'll make your paper curl. It won't look as nice and it will take longer to dry. The tacky crafty glues, they dry quite quick. So depending on your weather or if you've got your heating on in your house, you want to work quick with this as well because it will dry fast. Now this is similar to my make your own DIY paste video. This is the same kind of solution I use for when I make my own DIY paste. And all it is a good old scoop of mica powder, however shiny you want it to be, and then a big old blob of glue, and then your food coloring to color it however much color you want, and then a bit of water. And the reason I put the water in is it keeps it wet for a bit longer, so I have more time to work with it. So if I make a big blob like this, I've got longer to work with. And it also just makes it a little bit runnier so that I can soak it up into the sponge a bit easier. I just find it makes it a bit nicer. There is no measurement. I just add a little bit of water on there. If I add too much, I take a tissue and kind of soak up some of it. The stirring utensil I'm using is just a silicone spatula. You can get them from Amazon, from Shein. I think mine's from Shein. Really nice, easy way to mix it up without getting a big mess. You could just use a plastic spoon. It doesn't matter. Now I'm going to share with you a few different ways that you can apply the sort of shimmery paste onto the front of your cardstock and what it will look like depending on which method you choose. So I'm first starting with sort of dabbing it on, and you can see the total color difference. So be aware when you mix the glue in, it kind of makes it go more of a pastel pale color, but the minute it starts to soak into your cardstock, you can see that it's that darker color from the food coloring that I used. And that's purely because the glue looks white, but the glue will dry clear. And that's another good thing to think about as well when you're looking at glues, is make sure it does say on the front that it will dry clear. Now, my favorite version of using this is to take an embossing folder, and I run it through first because if you run it through second, you're going to get cracking in your color. So I run it through first, and I just feel like it gives such a gorgeous look. So not only have you got the texture going on in the background, but now you've got the pearlescent shine. The mica powder is so gorgeous, and don't worry, I will show you a close-up of all of these when they're totally dry. So I did those first two, and then I thought, oh, I want to do it on some vellum, and I want to have like a pearlized vellum. This didn't work, but I think it's because this is 110 GSM vellum, so it's really, really thin paper vellum. If you had cardstock vellum, you'd probably be okay, but look at this. The minute I put it down, it just went boop and curled up on me, and it stayed curled up until it dried, and then when it fully dried, it was still a bit curly, so you'll see those at the end. I did go for another version where I taped it down, but I got the same kind of result in the end. This one actually curled even more than the other one. Once I took the tape off, it just curled straight up. Now, once I was done with the purple mixture that I had made, I wanted to use it all up and make the most of it. I decided I wanted to do some multicolored fronts to see if we could get kind of a pearlescent multicolored look going on, maybe a bit of a kind of ink blended background. So I decided to take a scoop of each of my mica powders, pop them into a jam jar lid just to kind of contain them a bit more because I was finding I was struggling on my piece of acetate. The shiny surface I was using was just projector paper, acetate paper, and I just used that to mix on the top of. But I found a jam jar lid was much better. So again, the same thing, a big scoop of mica powder, a big blob of glue, and then probably 4 or 5 drops of food coloring, a tiny bit of water to get it all kind of blending together. And then I mixed up each of the colors and wiped off my tool in between, and they do look very similar, but again, when I put it on the cardstock and it starts to dry, it really pops. And I'm using the same sponges throughout the whole video, so I'm not wasting any of them, and I do wash them at the end and keep them to hand. All my embossing powders I'm using today are from Lisa Horton Crafts. I just have this Lisa Horton kit going on. I love her designs. They're so gorgeous, and these 3D embossing powders are beautiful. I will link all the supplies I used today down in the description box below for you. If I didn't link something, please pop me a comment because I probably just forgot about it. Now I'm doing some sort of ink blending. I'm just kind of blobbing it down. The ink absorbs very quickly into the cardstock, so I'm kind of trying to work fast so that I get as much movement as I can out of it. This one here is a Christmas one, and I thought I'd like to try out an ombre look. So for the last one, I just dabbed it on. This one I'm kind of streaking it on. There's two ways you can do this technique. You can either kind of rub it on and you get a little bit of line showing through, or you can dab it on. And the dabbing is my preferred method. You'll see lots of examples of the difference that you get in looks towards the end of the video. Now, this is where I realized I should have probably put gloves on because my hands get very, very, very stained. However, having said that, when I was done all these card fronts, I then went and washed the dishes and almost all of it was gone by the time I was done. So it actually didn't stain too bad. It's food coloring, so you know it's safe and you can have it on your hands. It's not going to damage anything. It will stain your clothes though. So I did a few of those card fronts, and then I found this wooden bauble on my floor, and I thought, let's do this. But the top was slightly broken, which is why I thought I would have a go with it. And I do break it a bit more. It kind of pings up my hand here, and I just snapped the whole top off. Whoops. But it's gorgeous because you can still see the wood grain underneath all this food coloring, but the glue keeps all the mica on. So it is a really shiny, shimmery bauble when I'm all finished, and it dries so quick because it's a craft glue. With a very minimal amount of water in, it dries really fast. So this bauble was ready to go, and I could have stamped on it or inked on it within an hour. Now my next one, I wanted to try multicolored, and I love this sunflower embossing folder from Lisa Horton. So I made up an orange and a yellow. And again, this is just, it blows my mind because it's so cheap and so easy to do. I mean, the food coloring I've had for like 2 years now, I've used it on so many different videos. There's a whole playlist on food coloring videos. And then the mica powder I got for £3 on Amazon for that whole bag, massive bag of white mica powder. So really cheap, and like the craft glue, it's been on my desk for ages. I've been using it for so long, and you can get such big bottles of craft glue as well. So I did all my orange little spots in the middle because they're the darker ones, and then I just took the yellow and just covered the whole entire card in the yellow, and I am dabbing it on. So I'm going for the sponge dabbing look. It gives you a bit more texture, and here's the close-up version of that kind of look. So on the right is where I've streaked it on, and you get that kind of texture look like that, streakies, I don't know what to call it, and it's very smooth and very shiny. You can see this pearlescent shine really well, and none of the pearl mica powder comes out at all because that craft glue is holding it in. Now if you sponge it on, you get a darker look, a more concentrated look, and it's a little bit more texture, it's a little bit more bumpy, still just as shiny and shimmery. So it's whatever you prefer. I like the one on the left more than the one on the right. I like the concentrated color more, and I like that kind of almost like painted wall texture. So again, here on the right is just streaking it on, and on the left is when I've dabbed it on, and like kind of sponge dabbed it. And it does take up more of your product, obviously, if you sponge it on. I find when you're doing anything with an embossing folder, often you need to kind of go in a circular motion and sort of rub it on. Otherwise, it doesn't get in all those little creases and crevices as well. Now here's this is the one I taped down. This is the one I didn't tape down. They're way too curly. So I'll try this again, but I'll do it on thicker vellum. And there's my bauble, all fully dry and finished. And it's hard to capture that shine, but it is super shimmery and gorgeous. These ones are probably my favorite, up there with that sunflower one. I love how these ones look. I love the kind of oceany feel, but also that kind of Christmassy feel you get from them. And they are gorgeously shimmery. So you can see that color when I tilt it that way, but what you see is this gorgeous shine. I love this one. This one's kind of got that graduated color definition to like the center. I'm getting all my words wrong, but I love it. I'm just so happy with how all of these turned out. I love this one with the sort of ombre look going on. Honestly, I wanted to keep going, but I had to get my video footage done. I spent 2 or 3 days playing with this technique and creating more and more, and I wanted to do more colors and more embossing folders because I love how the embossing folder ones look. But how stunning are these sunflowers? I love that you can create multicolored pearlescent cardstock all by yourself for really cheap with this technique. Right, let's turn these into cards. We're not doing all of them because I've run out of time, but we're going to turn some of them into cards. So I trimmed down all my panels so that they would fit on the front of a card with some layers behind. For this one, I did a blue card base, a layer of vellum, and then that top one is obviously the ombre layer I went for. I'm taking a piece of vellum and sticking it into my stamp platform. I did measure this according to the size of my stamp that you can see me using here on the left. I wanted it to be two-toned because I had a lot of tones going on in the background. So I'm covering up the top half of my stamp and inking up the bottom half with a embossing ink, so a sticky clear ink. And then I'm going to heat emboss it with silver embossing powder along the bottom. So I'm stamping only the Christmas out of the Merry Christmas, and I'm going to do that in silver embossing, and then I'm going to do the top one in a colored embossing. So my vellum sticks to my stamp sometimes. It just gives me an opportunity to make sure that I really covered that whole sentiment with the embossing ink. Once that's done and I've pulled it out of there, I can then take my embossing powder, sprinkle it over the top, and then heat set it to melt it and give it that gorgeous metallic shine. When I've got that all finished, I can pop it right back into my stamp platform, cover up the Christmas, and then ink up the Merry. When you do this technique, if you're doing a partial stamping, make sure that you pull that release paper or pull your sticky tape off before you stamp down, otherwise you will stamp all that extra ink over it. So as I'm doing here, I'm going to pull up that tape, that low tack tape, and then I've only got the top part inked. Now, because it's vellum, it takes absolutely forever to dry, so I have used my VersaFine Clear ink. And the VersaFine Clear ink is a pigment ink, so it stays tacky for longer. So I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle some clear embossing powder over top of that top word. And then that way when I heat set it, it's dry instantly. Otherwise, I'm going to be waiting for ages for that ink to dry, and I'll probably smudge it before I even get it finished being dried. So it's a great tip and trick to do if you want to stamp on vellum. Just add some clear embossing powder over the top, then it's all shiny and it's dry instantly. All I'm going to do here is just wrap it around the back and then take some normal sellotape and just stick it down with some sellotape because no one's going to see the back of it. So you have no idea that it's just little flaps I folded over. And it's quick and easy and it looks so nice and pretty on the front. Then I can just assemble my cards. So I'm going to go ahead and stick my card front onto the vellum and then the vellum onto my card base. I did pop a white layer on the inside of that card as well, so I had somewhere to write because it's quite a dark blue. Pop some gems on the front, and that's how I finished it off. It's so nice having a gorgeous shimmery shiny background to work with, and you don't need much effort on the front in terms of a sentiment. You just need a simple sentiment and it works really well. Now for these ones, I really wanted to kind of have like a little cutout going on. So I grabbed my Hero Arts Infinity dies and pulled out a circle. I found that the circle that went next to it wasn't quite as tight as I wanted it to go. So I did find a circle in my stash from a different set, and I've used those two together. So I've got the thinnest little cutout circle. You'll see in a second, it cuts out just the tiniest little sliver of a circle and gives you this fun little pop out element. But I thought it'd be fun to mix these two together. So I've got my textured one on the right, and then I've got my script one on the left. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm just going to place my circles roughly in the center towards the top. And here you can see I've die cut it out with my Big Shot. And then there's this little sliver of paper. And I'm saving these because I will use them on another project in the future. But I don't actually want that little sliver that's popped out because I wanted to interchange my circles that go in the middle. And I wanted to have a cool little sort of sliver of black showing through. Now I went ahead and stuck those together and stuck them down. They're all flat, one level. And I dug out some alphabet dies from scrapbook.com so that I could write the word happy out. And I've got 4 layers of cardstock. I've got 3 layers of white and 1 layer of holographic. And I didn't film this, so I forgot to, sorry. And I'm going to go ahead and stick them down using my low tack tape holding those letters in place, and then a little clear block over the top to let it dry. I'm going to stamp thank you, which awesomely I can use black ink for because I've got the black layer underneath, so it ties it in really well. So on the left, I'm going to go with a sentiment in the circle, in the center of the circle, and to kind of tie it in with that sort of black edging again, I'm just inking up the edge with black ink, and I'm going to pop it up on some foam and stick it straight in the middle of that circle. So really easy way to decorate the front of a card, especially when you've got that circle already there. You can just add another one on the inside and it gives you a cute little sentiment. Now that my letters are dry, I can go ahead and take the low tack tape off, revealing my nice straight letters. It's a nice trick to do. You can line up your letters on your desk and then apply some low tack tape over them. It holds them in place while the glue dries. For this next card, I wanted to stamp birthday and have it nice and subtle below, so I stamped out the birthday and then cut it out and glued it straight on. On the other one, I felt like it needed something a bit more, and I found this little black sequin bow on my desk and thought it went perfect underneath the thank you sentiment. So again, I'm going to just take that little birthday, pop some glue on the back, and stick it underneath the happy. To finish off that card, I went ahead and added some Nuvo drops and just did a few drops here and there to give a little bit more shine. Now, this one I love. My mother-in-law has just turned 80, and so I wanted to give her an 80th birthday card, and I felt like this one was so sunny and bright and beautiful, and she loves gardening, so I thought this would be perfect for her. So I went ahead and die cut out the numbers 8 and 0. I popped them up on 3 layers of cream cardstock with the gold on the top, and then I die cut out the T and the H from the original set I showed you that I used from scrapbook.com. to go in the top right hand corner. Use that happy and birthday stamp set from Trinity Stamps to finish off the card with the happy and birthday. Now with this one's quite fun. This is the Christmas card that I want to make. This set comes with an embossing folder and 2 dies. So you can cut out the poinsettia and then you can cut out the background. So I thought this would be really fun, which is why I did the kind of messy background. I knew I was going to cut out that poinsettia. So I did that one on the left and die cut it out. And then I took a piece of I don't know what this is called. It looks like wallpaper, but like a gold wallpaper. It's from Tonic Studios, and I'm pretty sure it's discontinued, but I used that as sort of my backing piece. Cut it the same size as the embossing folder, and then that way I could take this layer and stick it straight down and it would line up perfectly, and all the open bits would show the gold, and then the poinsettia can go right down in the middle. And I don't actually finish this card. I ran out of time. We had to go away for the weekend for my mother-in-law's birthday, and we needed to pack and get out the door, so I didn't finish this one off, but I got close. All it needs is Merry Christmas or Happy Christmas on the front when I'm all finished with it. So I've got those layers all together on a 5.5, I think, by 5.5 card base, and then I'm taking some Nuvo drops in this sort of stone effect and just adding some little dots to the center of my poinsettia. And then I'll finish off this card with a sentiment once I get some time this week. So here are all my cards that I finished off. I cannot wait to work with the rest of my card fronts that I made already, but I ran out of time, as I said. It is such a satisfying technique to do. It gives you such stunning results. There are so many different ways that you can use it, so many different colors that you can use to do these with. So I hope you give it a go. Pop me a comment in the comment section down below if you do give it a go. I've got a Facebook group if you want to show me any of the makes that you make. I would love to see them. I love seeing what you guys get up to and how you make this into your own version. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I can't wait to see you again next week. Take care. Bye.